Hello there. My name's Nick Offerman, and tonight I'd like to tell you a fine tale about a familiar storybook character. But before we get started, let's take a moment to get more comfortable. Take in a few deep, relaxing breaths, and let yourself ease into the softness of your bed. And when you're ready, allow your eyes to close. Now that you're settled in, let's begin our story. Well, I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in. I'll bet most of us can name the unsavory fellow who uttered that thunderous warning. It was the big bad wolf, of course, frightening the three little pigs, who were just trying their best to live in peace. Well, tonight I'll be sharing a new version of this celebrated fairy tale, an alternate ending, you might say. But before we roam into fresh waters, let us recap at least the highlights of this classic tale about a temperamental wolf and three innocent little pigs. The three pigs were brothers, you might recall, who left their small farm in the countryside to make it in the big city on the meadow. And this is where our story begins. A welcoming meadow where a flowing stream trickled through rocks and daisies blew in the breeze. It was wide and rolling, with low hills and tall trees, the perfect place to settle down and build a home. So when the three little pigs arrived in the meadow, it wasn't long before they rolled up their little sleeves and got to work, building their houses, one for each of them. The first pig built his new home out of straw. The second built his with twigs, and the third pig built his home with brick. The pigs looked very much alike, all of them small and round and gleeful. But the pig with the house of straw was the oldest of the three. The pig with the house of twigs was the middle brother, and the third was the youngest, but was also known to be the brightest among the brothers. In fact, he was so bright that as his two brothers were finishing their homes, his house of brick was already complete, and so he helped them to finish theirs. And before long, the three homes were built, and the three little pigs stood outside, admiring the product of their labors. Later that day, the big bad wolf was roaming along in the meadow when he came upon the three little pigs standing outside their new dwellings. Staying true to his name, the big bad wolf did what you might expect a big bad wolf to do. He ran straight up to the first house as quickly as his paws would carry him. When the pigs saw the wolf approaching, they scurried inside each of their homes and closed their doors. After all, wolves weren't known for being the friendliest creatures in the forest. As the wolf went up to the house of straw, he pleaded, little pig, let me come in." Safe in his house, the eldest pig replied, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin." Now the wolf, staying true to his reputation, hollered his age-old mantra, "Well, I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." With that, the wolf gathered himself, closed his eyes, and drew in a huge breath. He blew so hard that the leaves were swept right off the trees, and the butterflies and the bees had to hold on to flower petals and blades of grass to keep from blowing away. When he was done and opened his eyes, he saw that the house made of straw had blown down and that the eldest pig had joined his middle brother in the house of twigs. As you might expect, the wolf went to the house of twigs next, stood in front of the door, and again petitioned. "Little pig, let me come in." "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin," replied the middle pig, taking a cue from his older brother. So once more, the wolf closed his eyes and drew an enormous breath. And yet again, he blew a gale of wind that whistled over the meadow, rippling waves across the stream and shaking the trees in their roots. When he was done and opened his eyes, he saw that the house made of twigs had blown down as well, and that the two brothers had joined the youngest in the house made of brick. So he went to the third house and again repeated, little pig, let me come in." This time it was the youngest pig who replied, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." So, as expected, the wolf, who, if anything, was thorough, closed his eyes and drew in an even bigger breath. He blew a huge gust of wind, so great that it caused weather vanes to spin on the rooftops of barns many miles away. When he was done and opened his eyes, he expected to see a trail of loose bricks strewn across the meadow. But this time he couldn't believe what he saw. The house of brick stood tall and strong, unflinched by the incredible winds. So he huffed and puffed, and huffed and puffed some more, and this time he blew the largest gust of wind he'd ever created, so mighty that the soft white clouds in the sky blew away like great white ships sailing across the wide ocean. But again, the brick house was unfazed. Well, the wolf certainly wasn't going to be defeated like that. So, he climbed up on the roof of the brick house and slid down the chimney. Now, the traditional version of this story doesn't end well for our friend, the big bad wolf. But what if that wasn't how the story really ended? Perhaps, contrary to popular belief, the story of the big bad wolf and those three endearing pigs continues on to an even greater adventure. Perhaps indeed it goes a little something like this. When the wolf slid down the chimney, ready to surprise the three little pigs, he instead found them waiting for him on the other side of an iron screen. Realizing that he was stuck, the wolf tried everything he could think of to escape, but without any luck. He started huffing and puffing, and even started to recite his mantra. "Well, I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll—" But just then, the youngest pig interrupted his theatrics. The wolf was taken aback, as no one had ever stood up to him, especially mid-huff and puff. He practically forgot about how mad he was as he heard the little pigs counting. 5, 6, 7, 8. Distracted, he felt his anger slipping away. The young bright pig added, "Now take a deep inhale." And the wolf, mostly out of curiosity, did as suggested, taking another deep breath in. This time, the young pig counted along with the inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. The wolf felt a strange feeling setting in, one of almost relaxation. But this didn't feel quite right to the wolf. He didn't know how to act if he wasn't angry. The pigs were delighted to see the wolf growing calm and relaxed. "Mr. Wolf," said the youngest pig, "we'd like to let you out of the fireplace, but only on one condition." The big bad wolf was skeptical, worried that the clever pigs might be pulling one over on him. But the pigs surprised him yet again, adding, "We'd like to teach you something that you might find useful. We'd like to teach you anger management." You see, the youngest pig had once been known to have a bit of a temper himself, and it was by learning the techniques of anger management that he himself had discovered how to process his emotions in a healthy way. It was, in fact, none other than wise old Mother Pig who had taught him how to manage his anger many years ago. The middle pig opened the iron gate to the fireplace, and the wolf saw no hint of fear in the eyes of the three little pigs. Instead, he saw compassion. Disarmed, the big bad wolf took in his surroundings. It was a quaint brick home, cozy as can be, with a stack of firewood and a painting of Mother Pig hung above the fireplace. The three little pigs stood before the wolf, gazing back at him with their eyes crinkling up at the corners as they smiled with sincerity. Maybe it was all the huffing and puffing. Maybe it was the counting and deep inhales. But for the first time, the wolf felt true warmth towards these sweet pigs, who showed him nothing but acceptance and understanding. "Let's do it," the wolf agreed wholeheartedly. For deep down, he had grown tired of only being known as the big bad wolf. It could be pretty lonely at times. "For the next lesson," said the bright pig, "we'll meet in the meadow by the stream under the evening shade of the giant oak tree." And who could argue with an invitation so nice? So the youngest pig and his two brothers led the wolf out of the home of red brick and into the field of green grass. They arrived at the stream, which trickled along as the water washed over the stones. They sat under the evening shade of the giant oak tree as the glorious meadow rambled beyond, its daisies swaying in the breeze. Once they were seated in a circle, each on a stump of wood, the young pig continued his lesson. "The first step is to catch yourself right when you're getting angry," he explained. "Can you describe how your body feels when you become angry?" "Certainly. It's a feeling I know very well," answered the wolf. "I feel hot. My paws clench up, and my jaw gets tense. It feels quite unpleasant." "Yes," agreed the little pig. "So, catch yourself whenever you start to feel those sensations. Then, you can use controlled breathing to relax. Let's try that together." The wolf breathed in once again to the count of 4. And then breathed out with a slow and steady count of 8. He began to relax, stretching his ribs and the sides of his waist, and rolling his neck back and forth. He pointed and stretched his paws, and reached his legs out straight. He felt his shoulders relaxing down and releasing away from his scruffy ears. His chest was opening up instead of folding in. He felt light and easy, and he could even hear birds chirping away in the sunny sky. When he paid attention to breathing in and out, he felt his anger melt away, leaving him with a sense of presence and peace. The wolf felt rather intrigued by this whole idea of anger management, and so he asked the pigs if they could share more. "Okay, so now let's do a visualization," said the young pig. "Tell me, Mr. Wolf, what is your peaceful place? Somewhere that you feel totally relaxed and at peace." The wolf scratched his chin with his paw as he pondered the pig's question. It had actually been a long time since he'd felt peace, and he found it hard to think of a peaceful place. He even began to feel frustrated for not being able to imagine something quickly enough. To help, the oldest pig gave his example of a peaceful place. "I quite like this meadow, with the fireflies reflecting off the water and the cool evening air floating through the soft grass." The middle pig also gave his example. "Mine is sitting around the dinner table eating Mother Pig's homemade pie during the holidays." The youngest pig added, "There's a peaceful waterfall at the beginning of the stream that always helps me forget my worries as the water trickles down and gently splashes below." The wolf began to realize what a peaceful place was. He took a deep breath in and exhaled out as he began to visualize his own peaceful place. "A home of my own," he began, "with a red front door and a cozy brick fireplace." The wolf was pleased with his accomplishment. He was really starting to get the hang of this anger management thing. So far, he'd learned how to catch himself when he started to feel angry, how to find calm and space with his breath, and how to imagine a nice, safe, peaceful place in his mind's eye. "You've done really well, Mr. Wolf," the youngest pig praised. "But the next step is a bit tricky. Do you know why you got so angry when we would not let you in our houses made of straw, twigs, and brick?" The wolf really mused over this one. Finally, he said, "Do you remember the story of Little Red Riding Hood from a few years ago? Well, after news of that spread throughout the forest, people, and especially grandmas, didn't take too kindly to us wolves. At first I tried to explain that we weren't all bad, but eventually I just gave in and started acting the part. I guess over the years I started believing that I was the big bad wolf that everybody assumed I was." He suddenly realized that his anger was something else before it was anger. It was, in fact, loneliness. The youngest and wisest of the pigs chimed in. "You know, you don't have to be defined by your past mistakes or how other people see you. You can break free, reinvent yourself, and with our help, start a new chapter in your life." The pigs could see the wolf's big, soulful eyes well up with gratitude. Feeling accepted for the first time in years, the wolf added, "There's actually a side of me that many of you forest creatures don't know. A side of me that I keep rather hidden. Ever since the story of Little Red Riding Hood, you all know me as a huffing, puffing villain. And yes, I am very skilled at that. But I have other talents as well. The wolf continued. I fancy myself a bit of a builder and woodworker. Nothing makes me happier than measuring angles with my sliding bevel, cutting curves with my trusty jigsaw, and finishing tabletops with my orbital sander. So, when I saw you 3 little pigs and your 3 little homes, a part of me admired your work. I could tell that your homes were built with not only great skill and craft, but also respect and pride. As he reflected back, the wolf felt deep remorse for blowing down the house of straw and the house of twigs, and at the same time felt tremendous gratitude to the 3 little pigs for teaching him how to understand and quell his anger. So he offered up a bargain. Let's make this right, little pigs. I'd like to help rebuild your homes. The pigs were simply overjoyed to hear this. Plus, a fearless foreman was just what they needed to get their homes back together. So, the 4 new friends drew up detailed plans, secured the necessary permits from the city, and started building the brand new houses, all out of strong, red brick. The wolf noticed there was an extra set of plans and permits. The 3 pigs smiled and told the wolf that they had decided to make him their neighbor. The wolf's heart beamed with pride for their generosity, and he remembered what it felt like to be loved and accepted. As they started construction, suppliers brought wheelbarrows filled with all kinds of materials. There were piles of brick and stacks of wood. The wolf and the pigs dug foundations, poured cement, and lay walls of brick. Squirrels and birds and other animals of the forest gathered around, watching the new houses take shape. It was something of a spectacle in the meadow. Everything was going swimmingly, until one fine day, without a cloud in the sky, the 3 pigs were startled by the wolf's bellowing howls. The 3 brothers came over to see what had happened. They saw bricks strewn about everywhere, and the wolf seemed to be in quite a huff. Evidently, he had miscounted his bricks and didn't have enough to finish the last wall of his new home. They could see that the wolf was ready to blow a fuse. He started grumbling his old catchphrase, "Well, I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll..." But before he could finish, the pigs smiled to see the wolf practicing anger management, all on his own. He caught himself just as he was getting angry, and counted to 4 as he drew a deep breath in. Then He counted to 8 as he blew a slow breath out. He relaxed his clenched paws and stretched his tight shoulders. His eyes closed, and he envisioned his peaceful place, the one he was building at that very moment. He kept his eyes closed as he considered the cause of his anger, the very same way he had done before. Finally, the wolf opened his eyes again, and a gentle smile spread across his face. "Ah," said the wolf, very calm and relaxed. The pigs gathered round and encouraged their dear new friend. "Mr. Wolf, you've become such a great master of anger management, and you've done so much to improve our lives. We don't think you should be called the big bad wolf anymore. We think you should be called the big good wolf instead." The wolf smiled and said, "How about the big, calm wolf?" And with that, the big, calm wolf celebrated with his friends, the 3 little pigs. The 4 houses were complete. The sun was about to set, and life in the meadow would unfold with friendship and fond memories for many, many years to come.